What makes climate vulnerability just difficult for companies to understand and act on?
Complexity. When you look at enterprise risk, these risks are typically assessed by very rigid assessment frameworks. It's about how much money could this cost the company within this time frame, which probably wouldn't exceed 3 years. And obviously, we're talking about much longer time frames when we talk about climate change. We're talking about scientific data, and it's difficult then to translate this and put it in the language of the business decision maker. There's a major data set from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency, NOAA. This data set takes a look at natural disasters, extreme weather events occurring since 1980 that have incurred $1 billion in damage or more. We're seeing $3 trillion in damage from these extreme weather events. The truly eye-opening part is that half of that, $1.5 trillion of damage, has occurred from events occurring just in the last 5 years. And it's hard for people to swallow that. Hurricane Sandy is probably one of the most instructive case studies when looking in the difference between business continuity and business resilience. There's a great image looking at New York City after Sandy came through, causing catastrophic damage. There's a particular building in Lower Manhattan with all of its lights on and just gleaming as the rest of Manhattan is sitting in darkness.
Yes, I remember that.
It's a glaring image. When you look at it from just a pure business continuity, we're keeping the lights running no matter what. We've got generators going, the servers are backed up. Our customers at large, can still rely on us to keep running. That all might be true, and that is definitely worth something, applauding and celebrating. But where's your workforce? Your workforce is in the dark and underwater, and their lives are severely disrupted. This then begs the question about how are organizations anticipating these types of disruptions to their workforce, being able to map out the communities that they operate in, which communities are most resilient, so that when something like a Hurricane Sandy does come through, are they able to bounce back relatively quickly and using the sort of normal resources at a person's disposal? And then what are the more vulnerable communities that we're present in? How are you as an organization thinking about that? And how are you prepared to respond to those needs, anticipate those needs?
So how can organizations begin identifying the least climate resilient areas in their own footprints?
The one I really want to plug is something called the Climate Vulnerability Index. So this tool utilizes about 200 different cross-cutting data sets that go from dealing with climate risk data, so like your actual weather data and disaster data, but then also factoring in socioeconomic data. So looking at public health data, looking at income and poverty levels, looking at crime and security, all of the different factors that affect a community's resilience when struck by one of these extreme weather events. And so the tool then provides, using a really excellent and complex methodology, provides an index score, an overarching index score for every county in the United States. So you're able to use this picture, overlay it with where your fiscal sites are, where your largest employee communities are and where they're distributed. And then you're able to identify the primary drivers of the vulnerability in those different communities. So from there, you're able to present this back to the different risk owners in your enterprise to design risk mitigation strategies.